After almost 5 decades, the ABC checks out of China. Bill Birtles' lonely departure ending a tense 7-day ordeal. The ABC's China correspondent for 5 years, Birtles is now back in Australia.
It's a relief to be back in a country with genuine rule of law.
His posting time cut short by a late-night visit from Chinese officials.
Midnight on Wednesday, the knock at the door came and there were 6 state security police plus a translator.
Last week, Australia's embassy warned him to get out of China, but before he could get on a plane, police barred him from leaving.
That's when this standoff, this diplomatic game of chess really commenced.
Good morning from Shanghai.
And there were 2 pawns. The Australian Financial Review's China correspondent, Michael Smith, was also banned from leaving. Both men ended up taking refuge on Australian diplomatic compounds, Birtles in Beijing and Smith in Shanghai, while Australian and Chinese officials wrangled over their future.
Our embassy has, I think, worked very hard, very diligently in the past few days.
Chinese police said they wanted to discuss Cheng Lei, an Australian journalist working for Chinese state media who disappeared into detention last month.
The whole episode was about harassment.
Diplomats struck a deal. Both journalists would be able to leave China if they agreed to a token interview.
It felt very political, and I very much felt like a diplomatic tussle.
Whatever the motive, the relief is obvious.
It's so good to be home, so happy. I can't say any more at the moment.
And the consequences clear. For the first time in decades, no major Australian media outlet has a journalist left in China. Trust between Australia and China is now at bedrock levels, and that mutual suspicion isn't limited to officials and politicians. China craves understanding for its political system and for its achievements, but gaining that appreciation just became much harder for Australians. Still, the ABC hasn't given up on China.
We'll get straight back on the front foot and be seeking to put correspondents back there.
And neither has Bill Birtles.
Hopefully the winds of change might blow in one way or another and the window to get back there in future at some point reopens.
But for now, the door is slammed shut. Stephen Jedgetts, ABC News, Canberra.
When the bamboo curtain lifted for a glimpse, Australians were among the first to slip behind it.
There's no need for very long discussions.
So began a long, long era of listening, watching and reporting on China.
The city, with its 7 million inhabitants, runs on bicycles.
In 1973, Paul Raphael became the ABC's first Peking-based correspondent.
They appeared well-fed and cheerful.
Dozens would follow as reporters, camera operators and producers. Through 47 turbulent years, the communist regimes tolerated, even if not enjoyed, the telling of its stories to the world.
Tens of thousands of people continue to march through the streets of Beijing. The Chinese authorities had had enough.
The regime's tension with Western media has been a constant, especially with its tendency to expose human rights abuses. But the flight of reporters Birtles and Smith marks a turning point and a breaking point.
We have to realise that we're dealing with a sort of a renegade authoritarian state that will do anything to cement the power of Xi Jinping.
By expulsion, visa cancellation or volition, the ranks of foreign media have been shrinking for months. Arbitrary detention is a risk these days highlighted in Australia's official travel advice. Bill Birtles and his fellow traveller may have avoided it, in no small part because of the intervention by the ambassador to Beijing and his team.
It is alarming when you see exit bans placed on Australian journalists.
It is disappointing that after many years, Australia will not have a media organisation present in China.
We always welcome foreign journalists. China protects the legitimate rights of the journalists.
The relationship's a mess, never worse in 30 years. But Maurice Payne's ruled out tit-for-tat expulsions of Chinese reporters here, focused on diplomacy, salvaging whatever's left intact. This is not so much about Australia as it is about control. With every escalation, China's signalling its determination to project its image and its message on its own terms. There's something to be gained in that for Beijing and something to be lost too.
Come on, This is China.
Including the good stuff, like China's sufferings and setbacks.
The whole place has been destroyed.
Its near miraculous economic transformation. Its culture and traditions.
These performances are so important.
Over, spectacularly, in a blackout of unknown duration. Greg Jennett, ABC News, Canberra.